Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Bobby Touran, the co-founder at Rainbow. Bobby, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, Tony. I'm doing well, thanks.
Awesome. And I should have warned you before we started recording that with Riverside, the beauty of it is that if our internet's a little tricky, especially on my side because I am currently down in Argentina, the video quality might degrade, but it'll record full quality and then it'll join them in the end. So
Sounds good.
just keep going. If the video quality starts declining, you should still be able to hear me, and it'll definitely still be recorded. So
Okay.
I see on LinkedIn that you are in San Francisco, and we are recording on June 16th. So I'm guessing that Northern California is kind of beautiful, a little bit cold and beautiful this time of the year.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm looking out my window and it's a little overcast, but it's definitely beautiful.
Awesome, awesome. We actually lived across the bay in Berkeley for about a year, and
Um,
just loved that part of the country. Just such a beautiful place. If it wasn't so ungodly expensive to live in, we might have never left. Um, but we always give the chance for the guests to give the elevator pitch. What is Rainbow?
So Rainbow is a modern underwriting company focused on small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
We are we sort of differentiate in a couple different ways. We are an underwriting led business. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the ways that we focus on underwriting is by being specialized. So we have our first program is focused on the food and beverage industry. So it's focused on
Mm-hmm.
primarily restaurants. And by focusing and specializing in a single line of business, it allows us to go much deeper in terms of both the technical capabilities that we've developed, including the use of data, but also like the experience and distribution side of what it means to make that type of coverage available
Mm-hmm.
through agents to the broader market.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So Uh, legally, you're an MGA, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you call it a modern underwriting company, I find it interesting that you didn't use the term MGA yourself. So I don't know if you guys kind of shy away from the term or are trying to differentiate from the term. And because basically when it comes to underwriting companies in insurance, there are MGAs and there's carriers, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody else is either sales or a tool provider.
Yeah.
Um, so why a modern underwriting company? Why that particular wording?
Yeah. So we are modern in the sense that we want software to be used in as many different parts of our business as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, we have a team of software engineers based here in the Bay Area, and we have built our own quote bind and issue experience
Mm-hmm.
that agents can go through. They can submit business, they can get a quote and bind coverage within just a few minutes. We have a dashboard for them, we have a dashboard for the insured. We make it easy for the insured to initiate a claim, engage their agent for any questions, visit their policy, and they can do this any time of day, realizing that as a business owner, you don't necessarily have between 9 and 5 or whatever the typical hours that an agent or a carrier, more importantly, might be available to ask questions about
Mm-hmm.
your business, right? So, especially in this day and age. So, we've built that digital capability as from an experience perspective. Um, we're also an underwriting company in the sense that we develop our own insurance products. We
Mm-hmm.
have underwriters on staff who develop those products, but the underwriters are also there to humanize our experience. So the user, who's typically an agent, is not beholden to only whatever is available, like in our question set. Or if there's something that they're unsure of with their account, there's still opportunities for them to very seamlessly speak to a member of our underwriting team. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, the metric that we want to be most measured on is our loss performance,
Okay.
rather than
Mm-hmm.
how quickly can we grow our top line premium revenue. Um, so you're absolutely right. We are an MGA. We're not a carrier. We write on fronted capacity that's then reinsured. and we work with Accelerant. They're our capacity provider for this program, and we love working with them. Shout out to Accelerant. And yeah, that's sort of the combination of the modern and the underwriter in the context of what we're doing.
Okay, so the goal is, if I understood correctly, great service, tech first but human, and or tech first with a human touch, and great loss performance.
Perfectly.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so fantastic. So why, in an age where like other insurtechs want to serve every small business in the country, because it is a gigantic market, why focus so tightly on restaurants for now, on food and beverage?
That's a great
Why
question.
specialize so much?
Yeah, so a couple things. First of all, I think that there are lots of great companies out there trying to solve the problems of small business. But like you say, it's a huge market within PNC. The largest underwriting company, if you include carriers, has only about 9 or 10% market share. So it's a very, very fragmented market. Part of the reason why it's fragmented is because small businesses are so different. It's quite different than insuring homes or automobiles, where there's just like less difference between the different like sort of insurable units. If you are insuring a contractor, it's very different than if you're insuring a restaurant. It's very different than if you're insuring a medical office. Is very different than you're insuring another type of small business. And so what I've observed is that there's a number of companies that have come to the market over the last couple of years that are technology enabled to one extent or another, and their underwriting product is suitable for many, many different classes of small business. And as somebody who, my background is more technology led, and I can share more about that. And I sort of came into insurance, and I've really fallen in love with the industry.
Awesome.
As somebody who spent many, many years building software, it's very difficult to build. First of all, it's difficult to build good software. Like it just takes time. It's expensive. But to build really good software for multiple different use cases all at once is like you're getting to the bounds of like impossible in a lot of cases, especially doing it in a way that unless you have endless money or endless time, which most startups don't have. In fact, very few do. It's very difficult to do. So if you want to be really good at underwriting and you want to be tech enabled and you want to write many different lines of companies, underlying businesses, that's very difficult. And I think some of the companies that have tried to do that have ultimately been less successful than they would have hoped for. So to that end, I think by specializing, it's sort of like a less is more type approach. By focusing on fewer moving parts, you can think much more deeply about the experience that the agent is getting when they're using your platform. And you can also think much more deeply about what goes into insuring those types of businesses. And I think that's going to be an even more and more emerging trend in terms of the new companies that try to use technology in this way within insurance.
Fantastic. So I'm looking at the website, and you have a pay-as-you-go option, and I've seen a lot of pay-as-you-go for like auto, but in commercial, I'm very curious how that works, and it specifically says a no audit pay-as-you-go. So for a restaurant, for a rental policy, what does that mean? Pay-as-you-go and no audit.
Sure. So for any insured, because insureds are human beings, cash management is obviously a huge consideration. None of us have endless money in this world. And for small businesses in particular, a lot of them view insurance as something that they just need to have in order to get a lease or to get a working capital loan.
Yeah.
It's also something that really does protect them. And that's sort of what I love about insurance. It's a very good and helpful financial product. But certainly as a small business owner, managing your cash flow is one of, if not the single most important thing that you do, other than sort of operating in an ethical and value add way. So you're exactly right. We looked at what auto companies have done with pay per mile type insurance. We also looked at on the commercial side the analog that I think is most relevant is pay-as-you-go workers' compensation. So when you buy a workers' comp policy now, it's very common. We actually use a pay-as-you-go work comp policy that you will
Okay.
give the underwriting company access to your payroll data. And as your payroll fluctuates up or down, as you're hiring or letting go of staff, your total work comp premiums go up or go down. But you don't have to, as a business owner, dealing with hiring people or letting people go is already emotionally draining enough. Plus, you're trying to focus on running your business. The last thing you want to worry about is, oh, shoot, I forgot to notify my insurance company, and now I'm going to be under or over insured, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the nice thing is you give them access to your payroll data, and then they do the busy work in the background for you, and they charge your card up or down basically. We were wondering why something like that isn't more common, especially coming out of COVID, and especially for a category like restaurants, um, to basically have a more flexible insurance coverage for them. So we sell an annual term. All of our policies are annual term. You've
Okay.
probably noticed there's some pay as you go. It's not really pay as you go, but they're more like gig insurance. You can turn
Mm-hmm.
on or turn off the coverage while you're on the job. So this is not that. You're still buying an annual policy from us. But in the initiation phase, like during a grace period that we give you, if you, as the insured, go into your cloud based POS system and you enter in our Teams inbox into your portal. You do that one time after you've bought the policy from us. We will then start to receive sales reports from you, and we will use the sales reports to reprice a component of your overall coverage. And we have a BOP coverage, a business owner policy coverage, so that you're
Mm-hmm.
only paying for the amount of insurance that your business really needs at that time. So if your business goes up, you're going to pay a little bit more in that month in insurance because if it's going up, you probably have more risk associated with it because there's more customers, there's more things that could go wrong. And if you have slower months, either because you have seasonality or because you're going through construction or whatever it might be, you're going to pay less in insurance. But you'll at least have the peace of mind that you're always going to be like insured to the right degree. And then because we have this visibility into how your business is doing, we don't have to put you through a painful audit at the end of the year if you're one of our pay-as-you-go customers. So that's sort of the thinking behind that. And we're hoping that that's going to become a product that becomes more common in the marketplace because we see a lot of benefits to it. And something else that you mentioned is sort of like why focus on restaurants. So restaurants are actually a very large part of the overall small commercial is sort of this very general term, but restaurants are sort of one of the largest categories. Obviously, we all eat several times a day, and restaurants
Mm-hmm.
as a type of business are not going to go anywhere. Restaurants tend to follow the population very closely. So states that have most population tend to have the most restaurants, pretty obvious stuff. But the nature of the risk of restaurants has really evolved just in the last few years. So
No
one big
kidding.
change was COVID, where you had restaurants either completely shutting down, moving big parts of their operations outside, moving big parts of their operations to be more delivery focused. And that's like fundamentally changing the nature of the coverage. And as a result, a lot of the traditional insurance carriers have pulled back from writing restaurants. But like we say, restaurants are still there, and so it's getting more painful for the agents and their insureds to get coverage. And
Mm-hmm.
so we saw that as kind of an opportunity to sort of try to fill a bit of a gap. The other thing that we noticed is that restaurants, despite being not a new concept, obviously, they've been restaurants for as long as there's been any other type of business. They were relatively not as far along in terms of their use of technology. And
Mm-hmm.
now with cloud-based POS systems like Toast and Clover and Touch Bistro and Lightspeed and lots of these other companies, there is an incredible amount of rich data on these businesses that's available
So
at any time.
so
Yeah.
basically during and slight and in the right after COVID era, restaurants had to modernize, and that modernization is making it possible to help them do their insurance and risk management better.
We think that's the case. Yeah. We think
That's
that the
fantastic.
adoption of software had been coming, but like a lot of industries that sort of got pushed into having to speed everything up because of
Mm-hmm.
COVID,
Mm-hmm.
restaurants certainly were not immune from that, and they had to make that
Yeah,
change.
they were one of the businesses that was hit the hardest.
Exactly.
Uh, so that makes absolutely perfect sense. Great explanation. Okay. Um, Do you guys sell direct to restaurants and also via agents, or only via agents?
No, we only sell direct. Sorry, we only sell through agents. I was going to say we only sell directly through agents,
Oh,
but we work with agents to sell our products.
okay. So why only agents? Why don't you sell direct?
So a couple of reasons. One relates to what I was saying earlier on the underwriting side. We believe that agents play a critical role in building a really good book of business.
Absolutely.
Agents, especially for something like restaurants, like if
Mm-hmm.
you're an agent in a town in America or a city, it's very likely that you have insured restaurants in the exact same address multiple times.
Oh
So if you
wow.
think about the town where you live, think about just like where you are right now,
Mm-hmm.
and think about a restaurant that's not too far from you. Probably before that restaurant, there was another restaurant in that place. And before that, there was probably another restaurant in that place because they have
The
like the
survival is slow,
commercial,
yeah.
right? So, and
Mm-hmm.
as these agents play such a role in the community, they probably go eat at that restaurant. They probably know the owners. They probably know the people that provide services to that restaurant. So the agents, this is one of the things that technology companies, there's a huge role for the human to play here. Agents
Mm-hmm.
are the eyes and the ears in the field. We look at information on Google and Yelp. We look at review data. We can review menus that are available online. There's a lot of things we can do that streamline the process of classifying and selecting risk. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, an agent that knows a restaurant and knows the nature of operations, and most importantly, knows the person who's running that business,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a big determinant for if it's going to be a well run versus a less well run business. Agents play a critical role, and we wanted to sort of lean into sort of having a relationship. Not to mention that in the U.S. more generally, you still see an overwhelming more than three-quarters of commercial insurance premiums are placed through the agent channel. So
Yep.
it's hard enough to start a business, and we definitely didn't want to try to make a hard thing harder by
Okay.
by not working with agents that have
Perfect.
such a big role in this. Yeah.
Perfect. So for any agents listening that have some restaurants that they would love to have a better market for, um, are you guys open to partner with any agents or only with agents that do a lot of restaurants? And what does the getting appointed process look like as an agent?
So we're happy to work with any agents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to just be specialists in restaurants.
Okay.
Another reason why we liked restaurant was we felt like even generalist agencies have a couple restaurants that come in
Mm-hmm.
through their
Absolutely.
front doors, and we want to be able to be an opportunity, a market for them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are an admitted product, and so as an admitted product, we have to go through the process of getting approved in different states. We're currently live in Arizona. We just went live in Arizona.
Okay.
We're going to be live in Texas in a few weeks, and then over the course of the subsequent 6 months, we're going to aim to be live in close to an additional 20 states. And once we're live in all those states, we're going to represent almost 75% of the US population
Mm-hmm.
will be sort of available for buying coverage for through Rainbow. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
And what is the process? So if I'm an agent and I have at least one
Oh, yes.
restaurant that I like to write, getting appointed with a traditional carrier can be a slow, painful process. What does it look like at Rainbow?
So you just answer a set of questions which help us better understand your operations. We have a simple producer agreement, and then it's just the basic things. We need to check your license. We need a copy of your E&O,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a member of our team that's solely focused on helping to get agents appointed. Typically, from the time that you make an inquiry, it can take as little as 1 hour to get appointed and start quoting, but it almost never takes longer than 24 hours.
Okay,
And
fantastic.
once you're appointed, we just sent you a link, and you can immediately start quoting and binding business right out of the gate.
That's fantastic. Okay, okay. So easy to quote, easy to get appointed. Uh, Online quote and bind, restaurant specialists basically. Currently, Arizona, about to go live in Texas. 20 more states coming in the next 6 months. Fantastic. So cool that we got you on the show this early on. Very, very, very cool. Um, are there any other businesses that you will be starting to insure beyond food and beverage that you can already speak about?
No.
Okay, no problem. I didn't warn you on that question. Not surprising.
I'll say that we have ambitions to underwrite many other classes of business. And there's like a small group that we feel like are a particularly good next set of businesses that we want to move into. But like I said, I think focus is key. It's key to success in anything, but I think underwriting is no different. And we're hoping that in the next 3 to 6 months, we can learn more about the market and we can learn more about our own strengths and weaknesses as a company to select those perfect next categories to move into. And as soon as we are able to move into them, I'm happy to tell you about them.
Perfect. Fantastic. Okay. Okay. Why the name? How did you choose the name Rainbow?
So I think of insurance genuinely as, like I was saying, something that's very positive and something that's like very helpful, but something that's like in a way sort of overlooked.
Oh yeah.
Especially by a lot of like everyday folks who aren't in the industry. They're not thinking about insurance. And it might sound kind of cheesy, but I sort of think of rainbows as similar. Like, first of all, it's a very simple word that most people, when they think of the word rainbow, they think of something positive. They also think about something that they probably don't think about unless they hear the word. You know, like most people don't think about insurance, but when you mention insurance, they're like, oh yeah, insurance, of course. And if you say rainbow, nobody's really sitting around wondering like, why don't I see a rainbow in the sky? Because usually it comes like after a rainstorm or something like that. But when you hear it, you know exactly what it means. And we did a little bit of research and we felt like it wasn't a very active term in the world of financial services. And so we thought it was kind of an easy and memorable word to then try to build a brand around. And that's why we named the company Rainbow.
Cool. Yep. Very, very cool. And looking at the website, it looks like Andrew Clark is one of your underwriters.
He is, yeah.
I know, and like him, it looks like a solid team. Fantastic. Okay.
Andrew mentioned that he knew you, by the way.
Good guy.
I asked him how I should or should not bring him up on the air. So I'm actually really happy that you did. Best, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Good guy for sure. So very cool. Very cool. Given how early you guys are on your path, I think that's all I have for questions. I look forward to have you back on the show in a year or two once you fully deployed this thing and are looking at some other businesses. I'll tell you one thing. When I asked you why only restaurants, I assumed that the reason was all the research indicates that agents that are specialists in a few industries do better than generalists. So I assumed that you had got into it through that perspective, even though you didn't come from insurance. Very interesting to learn that from the software perspective, it's also trying to boil the ocean by becoming, the insurance distribution or insurance MGA for every small business. Because like I've had many entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs basically ask me or tell me like the small business space, like agents don't like it because it's hard to be profitable and and there's so much need for it. It's in aggregate, it's so huge and it's so hard to service, right? So like so many startups want to go after the small business space, but they all make the same mistake. They all try to boil the ocean, and it's very, very hard to boil the ocean, not only from the insurance perspective, but I've learned today from the tech perspective. So I love the approach. Absolutely love the approach. Thank you very much for your time. For the listeners, if you have some restaurant insurance that you want to run by Rainbow, check out userainbow.com, and I will tag both Bobby and the Rainbow when this goes live on LinkedIn. And again, a real pleasure to chat with you today. I look forward to see you around at some conferences, and I look forward to see you guys continue to grow and maybe have you back to talk about what it's been like a year or two down the road.
That sounds great, Tony. It's really nice to have met you, and I really enjoyed this. So looking forward to the next conversation.
Thank you.